Hey, what's up, you guys? Welcome to the video. Today we are talking about just a general overarching theme and strategy that I like to use when playing on DraftKings. I've said it once on this channel, I'll say it again. There are thousands of people telling you who they think you should play. I don't want my channel to only be, oh, you should play this guy or over this guy. I love talking about game theory. I love talking about philosophy when building a DraftKings lineup. One of my favorite things about playing tournaments on DraftKings is trying to figure out how feel this feeling about a guy, how I could be different. Game theory is like my favorite part of tournaments on DraftKings, more so than the X's and O's of the game. And I see a new trend starting, and I want to discuss it. So, one of the biggest philosophies on DraftKings is you have to play running backs that get usage in the passing game, right? Because it's a 1-point PPR game on DraftKings. Running backs that have usage in the passing game have a higher floor because 1-point PPR raises their floor because they get a point for every catch. They get 4 or 5 catches. They have instantly higher access and a better chance to hit a ceiling game. So that's why on most nights, barring injury, this is like not specific to this season, this is just a generalized statement. You're going to see Saquon Barkley, Ezekiel Elliott, Alvin Kamara, Christian McCaffrey be the highest priced running backs on a given slate, because DraftKings adjusted their prices for these trends. They want to make it tough to fit in the pass catching running backs because typically they know these guys score more points on a week out basis because usage in the passing game gives them a higher floor. And we're seeing this shift where DraftKings is making very, very high adjustments to the pricing on quarterbacks that run, because like the receiving the receiving running back, they have a higher floor because rushing yards, more ways to score, right? But DraftKings, again, turn the dial up on the guys that play quarterback and run the ball. So you're going to start seeing Pat Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, Josh Allen. Those guys are going to be the highest priced quarterbacks on a slate. So DraftKings is going to make you make some hard game time decisions. And for me, if paying up for quarterback means I can't get a guy like Alvin Kamara or I can't get a number one receiver, I am going to pay down at quarterback. And I just want to give you some fantasy notes that I got from this past week 4. Josh Allen was priced at $7,700, put up 25 fantasy points. Lamar Jackson at $8,100 put up 26 fantasy points. Kyler Murray, priced at $7,000, only put up 24 fantasy points. Now, I'm going to give you some names of guys who were in the similar range of fantasy points. Gardner Minshew at $5,000 put up 24 fantasy points. Ryan Fitzpatrick at $5,600 put up 26 fantasy points. Derek Carr, priced at 5,400, put up 24 fantasy points. Sam Darnold, priced at 5,300, put up 23 fantasy points. So paying up, conducive to higher ownership, paying up for a guy that's going to bring in high ownership really hurt you this week. There were plenty of guys that who were priced down at quarterback that got you close to 30 fantasy points. A guy like Tom Brady, priced at 6,000, who threw for 5 touchdowns, got you like 35 fantasy points. Like, there's ways you could be different without being dumb. And I'm also not saying go out and play Daniel Jones, but like, if Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Kyler Murray are going to be the 3 highest owned running quarterbacks, what's wrong with playing a quarterback like Matt Ryan, who's going to throw for 300 yards, who consistently throws for 300 yards on a week in, week out basis? Derek Carr at 5,300 has been ridiculously efficient, putting up 25 fantasy points. Like Derek Carr is consistently giving you 5x value. Ryan Fitzpatrick this week, a guy that's been ridiculously efficient, going against Seattle, having that matchup, ridiculously under-owned in my tournament at 5,300. I think I got him at like 18% ownership. I mean, Dak Prescott went off and threw for 400 yards. Like, Dak Prescott went up for like 43 fantasy points. Dak Prescott is the exception, and I do think there's going to be a week where everybody's on Dak Prescott and he regresses and burns everybody. But if you were on Dak Prescott this week, you did good. If you want to keep riding Dak Prescott, I won't talk you out of it. He's been phenomenal. But like, the way I see it is, if the trend is going towards expensive quarterbacks that can run, I'll gladly play a guy like Tom Brady week in and week out. I'll gladly play Matt Ryan week in, week out. I'll play Matt Stafford week in, week out. I'll play a guy like Derek Carr. I have no problem with that. Because the range of outcomes between the number 1 quarterback and the number 10 quarterback is extremely small. You don't have to be a great quarterback to put up between 20 and 25 fantasy points. Now, on the same note, I'm not saying that I'm never going to play an expensive quarterback. Like, I'm going to have shares of Kyler Murray against the Jets this week, for example. But my allocations on those guys are going to be underweighted on the field. And you're going to have to play quarterbacks that make you feel uncomfortable. In my opinion, that's how I play it. I would much rather play a pocket passer quarterback that's going to be cheaper, that's going to be lower owned, and has that same 30 fantasy point upside than go up for a guy like Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Kyler Murray. Unless it's like a very specific spot, That's typically how I'm going to be playing GPPs this year. The one place I think I'm going to have an edge over the field is not playing the Russian quarterback. Because I've been fairly successful avoiding these quarterbacks. And what you're going to realize is that a guy that is pulling in high ownership is very brings no value to your lineup. If 25-30% of the field is on a guy and he does good, where's the value in that? Half the field is on him. You're gonna have to make plays that if one guy does good, you go shooting up the leaderboard. You don't want your lineup to be comprised of guys that where if they go off, you can't move up the leaderboard because everybody's on them. And for me, I think it's simple. I think the easiest way to be different, to gain an edge, is to play the quarterbacks that nobody's going to be on. Be on Matthew Stafford. Be on Drew Brees. Be on Tom Brady. Be on Sam Darnold. Be on Derek Carr. Because DraftKings is going to be underpricing all of them, and they're going to be super low owned. Matt Stafford, he had like a 40-point fantasy game against the Saints, and was like 1% owned in my daily dollar this week. It was insane. Don't be selective with your quarterbacks. Quarterbacks don't have to be great to give you 25 to 30 fantasy points on a given week. And it's not going to be names you like. Play a Gardner Minshew. Play Sam Darnold. Play Mitch Trubisky. Mitch Trubisky played one half of football last week and still gave you 18 fantasy points. This video has gone on too long. That's where I'm going to end it. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you on the next one.